Um, I wrote my novel House of Names because there were certain things that began to haunt me from the works of Aeschylus and from the works of Euripides. Specifically, it was that every time a man spoke, it sounded like legislation. So when the king speaks, the voice seemed to have no flavour. But when the women spoke, for example, when Electra spoke, or Medea, or Antigone spoke, it was all filled as though powerlessness itself became a sort of power once it became speech. Once that idea came into my head, that whole idea of then moving the text into monologue. In other words, that Clytemnestra would simply speak, would simply, in a prose piece, tell her own story, that the story would be narrated by her. She would have command not only of the tone, but of the narrative itself. The motives would be her motives as explained by her. We would see the world from her point of view. No one would interrupt her. And once I thought of that, then I thought of what's really missing in these plays is the whole question of Orestes. Where is her son Orestes all the time, so that he's coming home, his appearing again is so dramatic. He has been away. And I thought that he was too young, too little sensibility to give him a voice. His voice would be too fragile, too frail compared to that of his mother, or indeed of his sister Electra, that it would be too much to let him, his frail voice, appear. So I thought of doing the second half of the novel in what I call third person intimate, which means that I would tell the story from his point of view using third person. And since there's nothing to go on, I would then begin to invent his being kidnapped, his being taken across the country, his being imprisoned effectively in a place where the sons of other powerful people who are under suspicion or who are under attack, the sons of those people were also being held. So it was almost as though I was back trying to write about my own boarding school in Ireland, my own business of being in a place run by Catholic priests in Ireland in the early 1970s, using the sort of atmosphere of that place, the sense of all the boys together, cooped up together at night, the mixture of fear, the mixture of bullying, just the strangeness of the way in which the control is exercised. And then, of course, we were always planning to escape, anyone in prison, anyone in boarding school. And so the idea of Orestes and his friends, two of his friends, making their way across the country and finding a haven. But while the war was going on, they were safe. They didn't know what happened. There was rumors, there were suspicions, for example, that Agamemnon, his father was dead, but nobody really knew. And so they live in this isolated place, this sort of funny Shangri-La, this lost horizon, this world beside the sea in which time doesn't seem to pass or make any difference, in which war has gone by this place. And then, of course, they decide eventually to come home. And the reader knows when they're coming home to disaster. And we watch them innocently making their way there. And then we watch the rest of the novel moving into other voices. For example, the voice of Electra. And then the third person voice, again describing Orestes in all his innocence. In other words, that it's the women who have all the power now. And boys like Orestes are simply being sort of used. They've almost got a sort of decorative purpose. And of course he resents this. So you have all that drama going on between who holds power, who will hold power. So my novel House of Names, I suppose it's a sort of, in a certain way, a homage to those texts, especially the text written by Aeschylus and Euripides, and in a way where that is the basis of our storytelling in Europe. The idea that we had these stories to start with, not just the stories of Greek mythology, which are important for us, or indeed the Iliad or the Odyssey, but these plays that are so concentrated, so fierce, so filled with drama, so filled with competing motives, competing voices, competing desires. that the drama still remains with us. And for me, I began to be haunted by this. And so the novel House of Names comes out of that haunting.